welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we're looking at something truly special. We're dropping right into the year 1444. But honestly, just go ahead and throw your history books right out the window, because this simulation is already going completely off the rails. We're breaking down 7 minutes of pure, uncut, unhinged Europa Universalis chaos. The anatomy of chaos. That's exactly what we're going to dissect today. We're looking at how a simulation that's meant to mirror history devolves into absolute madness in record time. Right off the bat, you hit this quote, "Nobody asked for this, nobody wanted this." And that really drops us directly into the reality of what this is. There is no grand plan here. There is absolutely no mercy. There's just this dizzying sequence of events where you have absolutely no idea what just happened, but you are totally strapped in for the ride. It perfectly sets the baseline for the madness we're about to explore. It's a perfect example of how complex AI systems can create incredibly unpredictable, emergent storytelling that literally no human could ever script. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, Geographic Nonsense and Illogical Expansion in 1444. So in a normal historical simulation, you'd expect borders to make at least a little bit of sense, right? You expect nations to grow logically. But here, yeah, logic left the building the exact moment the clock started ticking. Take the tiny, one-province nation of Ryazan. Their population barely exists, their army is, quite literally, 2 guys in a dream. And yet their ambition is entirely delusional. Within 40 years, this absolute nobody of a nation has decided their grand goal is to conquer Moscow. It's either that, or they're going to get annexed by a rebellion led by a guy named Steve. There is literally no in-between here. The sheer audacity of this one-province minor just highlights how wonderfully broken the ambition scaling is in this environment. And then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have Castile, who has achieved what historians would objectively call way too much land, way too fast. I mean, they annexed Portugal, okay, aggressive, but sure. They annexed Aragon, wow, they're really snowballing. But then, they annexed a random province in the Caucasus. How? Nobody knows, nobody can explain it, and frankly, nobody's even asking. The borders are just flashing and changing colors left and right, and Castile is somehow operating on a completely different geographic plane than the rest of the entire world. Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 2, Pure Diplomatic Spite, the Art of Making Enemies. Listen, if you thought the geographic expansion was nonsensical, just wait until you see the diplomacy. Because diplomacy in this simulation isn't about statecraft or careful treaties. No, it is driven entirely, 100%, by spite. The Ottoman foreign policy is incredibly simple: declare war on literally everyone. And the source material makes a very specific point to emphasize that this is not a joke. This is an actual, terrifying foreign policy strategy. The Ottomans aren't just strategically picking off weak neighbors. Their army is just marching in this comedic slow zoom across the map, taking on the entire known world simultaneously. It really shows what happens when game AI decides to prioritize maximum aggression over any kind of logical self-preservation. And right smack in the middle of that Ottoman warpath, we have Byzantium, down to one single city. They've survived for approximately 600 years, and now they're just screaming into the void. So why are they still alive? Honestly, they are refusing to die purely out of spite. It is an incredible 600-year survival instinct that basically boils down to just staying alive to annoy the people trying to conquer them. I mean, you kind of have to respect that level of historical pettiness, right? But this brilliantly illustrates that this pettiness extends all the way across the ocean, too. We have a single 12-tile island in the New World, and somehow 3 separate European powers have all piled onto it. Nobody communicated, nobody planned this out. But because of this absolute lack of coordination, a random 12-tile island is now the single most contested piece of land on Earth. It's basically a massive geographical traffic jam. Jumping back to Europe for a second, we encounter that classic historical contradiction: the Holy Roman Empire. It's neither holy, Roman, nor an empire. Actually, scratch that. It's really just a chaotic patchwork of colors on the map mode. And this inherent contradiction sets the perfect stage for the exact kind of localized, petty nonsense that makes the simulation so incredibly unhinged. Just to prove my point here, look at the actions of this minor 5-province elector within the empire. They went ahead and converted to a completely different religion. Now, was there a grand strategic reason for this? Did it secure them some crucial alliance? No, absolutely zero strategic reason. It was done purely to spite their neighbor. They upended their entire society and changed their state religion just to make the guy next door mad. That is the level of diplomacy we are operating on here, people. Which brings us to the crescendo of this madness. Section 3, the coalition climax, spiraling out of control. So what exactly happens when you combine illogical expansion with incredibly spiteful diplomacy? Well, it snowballs into a massive existential crisis. And standing right at the center of it is this leader, armed with a massive military prowess stat of 6. I know it's a bit of a comedic stat reveal, but this 6 is literally the only thing standing between his nation and total annihilation. Let's take a look at the rest of his resume, shall we? So the crucial point is how ridiculously unbalanced this ruler actually is. Diplomacy, 1. Administration, a flat 0. He has the negotiating skills of a literal brick. And yet, because of that military 6 we just saw, this certified warmonger is somehow going to declare 4 wars this decade. And here is the wildest part of the whole shebang. He's going to somehow win all of them out of sheer unadulterated stubbornness. But you can't behave like a brick for very long before the rest of the world takes notice. Suddenly, the threat level jumps to a 6-nation coalition, pulsing with this dramatic red glow. 6 entire nations have formed a coalition with one shared goal: ending us. This is the exact moment every single player fears. And what is our response? Oh, this is fine. This is completely fine. Even though we have prepared for absolutely nothing. The panic is incredibly real, and it is entirely our own faults. The chaotic battle animation plays out, the dust finally settles, and we achieve a Pyrrhic victory. How on earth did we survive a six-nation coalition? Well, technically we won, but only by losing fewer troops than the enemy lost horses. It is a victory so incredibly questionable, so totally Pyrrhic, that the generals are probably actively arguing in the war tent about whether it was actually a defeat. Nobody is sure. The casualty numbers are just off the charts absurd. After 7 solid minutes of random, unfiltered chaos with absolutely no plan, no mercy, and honestly no real idea what just happened, winning and losing completely blur together. Which just leaves us wondering, same time next week, probably? Because the cyclical, highly addictive nature of the simulation means you are absolutely going to come right back to do it all again. But it really makes you wonder, are we playing the simulation, or at a certain point of chaos, is the AI simulation actually playing us? Think about that the next time you find yourself staring at a world map. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.